Welcome. This is my channel and I tell stories of the mysterious, twisted, and paranormal, so please stick around and consider subscribing and turning on your post notifications. Now, I got a story for you today that will entertain you, so relax and enjoy, and remember, as of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Let's go. Now, one city in particular had an immense sense of peace throughout it, but that sense of peace was going to be destroyed on July 22nd, 2015 at 11:30 p.m. A 911 call was called in by a 12-year-old girl who was in a panicked state, and she said that her brother was killing her entire family. Then, the 911 dispatcher could actually hear screaming and yelling in the background, as well as an older male's voice, and for the operator, she couldn't get any information from the caller, so the phone went dead. But the dispatcher was able to track down the address, and immediately police were sent to 709 Magnolia Court, and when the police arrived, they noticed a lot of blood on the porch and could even hear a faint whisper from within the house. So the responding officers looked at each other, took a deep breath, drew their guns, cautiously and meticulously entered the home, and inside they found the aftermath of a bloody, horrible massacre. The first image they saw undoubtedly shook them for probably the rest of their life, because lying on the floor in front of them was a 13-year-old girl, and she was later identified as Crystal Bever. Her throat was slit, and she had multiple stab wounds to her arms and her stomach. Then there was an adult male who was later identified as 52-year-old David Bever, and he was the father of the family, and he unfortunately had over 28 stab wounds to his arms, neck, torso, and face. Then, laying right next to David's body, police found his wife, who was 44-year-old April, and she experienced blunt force trauma from either an instrument such as a bat or maybe even hands and feet, along with over 48 stab wounds to her neck, head, and just basically all over her body. Then, close by were the bodies of their sons, 12-year-old Daniel and 7-year-old Christopher. And then there was their 5-year-old daughter, Victoria. Now, Daniel received 9 stab wounds to his back, his shoulder, and his chest. Christopher had 6 stab wounds to his chest, back, shoulder, and lower leg. And Victoria had 18 stab wounds to her neck, upper arm, and her chest. Now, if it seems like this video is a little hard for me to get out, it is, because I had to read it twice, just because the first time I read it, I was kind of in shock, just that stuff like this even happens, and this video really is hard to get out, so if you could just please bear with me on this one. Thanks. This amount of carnage in one place would give anybody, not just a police officer, a horrible feeling in their stomach and horrible images that they would remember for the rest of their lives. And it was truly worse than many massacres that we see in movies. At that time, the only silver lining would be police found their 2-year-old, named Autumn Bever, alone and unharmed, huddling in the corner of her room. Now, right after this, Autumn was rushed to the hospital, where she was listed in serious condition, but also in stable condition. Thank God. Detectives soon after discovered that it was Crystal who was the one that made the 911 call, and when she recovered sufficiently enough from her injuries, she was able to speak to them, and she identified her 2 brothers, 18-year-old Robert and 16-year-old Michael Bever, as the perpetrators of this deadly massacre attack. Crystal then told police that when they arrived on the scene, Robert and Michael ran out of the house through the back door, and that's why they evaded the police. The brothers went into a heavily wooded area that was next to their property, and the police used canine units to locate them. And sure enough, they found them and arrested the two brothers and brought them into Broken Arrow Police Station. Broken Arrow was the name of this city. And in the police station, during the interviews with Robert, Michael, and Crystal, it painted a picture of a severely dysfunctional family, which some would say is why these two brothers became so enraged that they turned into horrific killers. Crystal informed detectives that the father, David, was verbally and physically abusive toward all the children a lot of the time, and she said that David also threw them physically across the room on more than one occasion, and when he was angry, he took most of his anger out, especially hard on Michael and Robert. Crystal also told about a time when she saw David, the father, beat her mom senseless and slam her head against the wall several times. Now this, for the most part, was unnoticed because the family lived in isolation from the rest of the community. I mean, children were homeschooled and absolutely not allowed to interact with any other children, and they were so isolated that a lot of their neighbors only learned of the family members' names when they were released by the medical examiner. Crystal then told the detectives that Michael and Robert spent the last year talking about killing their family and taking their parents' money, and she indicated that both of her brothers were fascinated with mass shootings. And when these type of things would happen, they would always root for the perpetrators to avoid the police and get away. It is said that the brothers' philosophy was that there were too many people in the world. So in return, they needed to kill as many as they possibly could to even the scales of life. Following this, there was an interview with Robert where detectives learned that his parents actually were hateful and abusive toward him and his siblings, and that both Michael and Robert had been planning to kill their parents since Robert was only 13 years old. He then told detectives about his grand plan on, how he got a job at a call center so he could save enough money to buy knives, body armor, guns, and bullets, and that he would order all these weapons online and have them delivered to a local gun shop where he then in return would pick them up. And in fact, he actually ordered ammunition on the day of the massacre. So when the detectives looked into this, they found over 3,000 rounds of ammunition that the brothers ordered and uncovered that their plan was to kill their entire family and dismember them, and then place them in different parts in plastic storage containers that they would hide in the attic. And the brothers actually did intend to kill the 2-year-old sister as well, but they had to flee when police arrived and were not able to kill her. Robert further explained that if the police did not arrive exactly when they did, they would have continued their killing spree and drove across country, and that their goal was to kill at least 100 people. And Robert confirmed what Crystal told the detectives, which was they respected serial killers and mass shooters. And Robert killing multiple people, quote unquote, would make him feel godlike. Plus, Robert believed that if he did kill enough people, those, especially who were not contributing to society, would eventually be eliminated. So, in some sense, he thought he was doing everybody a favor. Both brothers, David and Michael, were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of assault and battery with intent to kill, and their crime is still considered the worst single criminal event in Broken Arrow history. Robert pled guilty to all counts and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Michael was found guilty of all the charges and sentenced to 5 life sentences plus 28 years for the assault. Now, the children that actually survived this horrific massacre ended up being placed in foster homes. And it is to note that some say that no child is born evil, and that when children commit evil, it's because they have experienced evil, often from the very ones who are supposed to protect them. And in this case, Michael Bever especially was a time bomb just waiting and waiting to explode. I will be uploading stories 2 or 3 times every week, sometimes with multiple stories in them. So please, if you enjoyed this, take a moment to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up and share this video to everybody that you know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.